Welcome back. If you've been buried beneath the earth someplace, by its very sound, feminist, you know, stands for the rights of women. But often positions vary on key issues within any movement. Joining me now with two very different points of view from within the feminist community, Eleanor Smeal is the past president, you know, of the National Organization for Women. She is currently the president of the Fund for a Feminist Majority. Mathewes-Green is the vice president for communications of Feminists for Life of America. Welcome to you. Why don't you like RU 486?
I don't like it because it's a form of abortion. And I think that abortion is bad for women. I think it's a capitulation to an unjust system that sees women's unintended pregnancies as unacceptable, a machine that says that pregnant women aren't wanted here. And it's a bit of a cop-out, a sellout.
But do you acknowledge that RU 486 is strikingly, remarkably different from any other form of abortion method that we have encountered in the past? And given the reality that women always have and apparently always will seek abortion, does it in any way affect your position that RU 486 is such a different method of abortion and ultimately maybe contraception?
It doesn't change the fact that it does mean that a woman must choose between continuing her pregnancy and continuing her life plan. That's what's wrong with abortion. The method doesn't matter that much. We're hearing that RU 486 is much more safe than a surgical abortion, which is surprising because I'd heard for so many years that surgical abortion was so completely safe. But now we're saying, oh, there's risk of perforation, there's risk of this, risk of that, and this is such an improvement. So I guess perhaps surgical abortion wasn't that safe after all. This has not been adequately treated yet, tested yet, and I think that there are possibilities for long-term effects we don't know. Chemically, it mimics the structure of DES. I mean, there certainly were surprises there. It has the possibility of creating a free radical that might impair the woman's fertility in the long run. There are things we simply don't know about it.
Ms. Smeal, your pro-choice position has been well documented and long known. What difference does RU 486 make to the whole pro-life, pro-choice debate?
Well, it gives the woman another choice. And actually, women, as you said, have always had abortions. They always will, and they obviously have chosen them themselves. The question is, this gives them another choice, and for some women, a preferred choice. Now, induced abortion or surgical abortion is very safe. It's 12 times or 13 times safer than childbirth itself, and we have never changed that position. But it has, like breathing, some risk. I mean, I could walk out of here and slip on a banana peel. It doesn't mean I'm going to, but I could.
You won't, because you won't sue us for having a banana peel outside the station.
But anyway, the point is that it's very safe. But this eliminates the need, and actually you don't even need to, but some abortion clinics do administer a local anesthetic. This needs no anesthetic at all. So if you would have some allergic reaction to an anesthetic, this eliminates that. Plus, an induced abortion, an instrument enters the uterine cavity. That instrument could cause an infection. Very, very rare under normal clinical procedures, almost never, but it could. This would eliminate that. So on both of those, it's slightly safer. The point is they're both safe. A lot of people, a lot of women would prefer not to have to go into stirrups, not to have that tension of somebody else being in control. This is something they would take, 3 pills, swallow them with water, a shot. They feel psychologically stronger about it. Other people, there are people who can't stand a needle. To having a shot of Novocaine would drive them nuts. They would prefer doing it the other way. I mean, it depends on what
your thoughts are. It also seems to add a dimension that women who are seeking abortions apparently crave, and that is privacy.
Right.
It apparently can be administered, while it's not being done in France right now, but it apparently can be administered in the privacy of a home or some kind of more private environment, and women seem to cherish that.
Well, not only that, is that it's an advancement. Eventually, it will not require clinic procedures, probably. Eventually, what you're hoping is, and this is one of the most outrageous things about the opposition viewpoint, you're hoping that as medical science advances, they will make it even easier, and it'll be another form that'll be almost like you take a pill beforehand, now you take a pill after. It would just give you more options. Now, they're not there yet. but to stop the research. And that's the opposition's position. They're stopping research, and it's just unconscionable.
Indeed, Ms. Mathewes-Green, the pro-choice forces argue that your position is an anti-science position. How do you respond to that?
We're not opposed to stopping research. If there's a glimmer of hope that this may affect breast cancer or other hormone-induced diseases, this is good. I don't think the hope is very great.
That's not what the National Right to Life Committee, and that's not what the bulk of the Right to Life movement is saying. They don't even want it to proceed for medical applications. They want this to stop, and they've been fighting it.
I spoke to Richard Glaso on the phone this afternoon at 5 o'clock, and he said we're not opposed to research.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with research.
They speak with forked tongue because they have been fighting.
On the segment tonight, he didn't say he was opposed to research.
Well, was the question asked? And the reality of what they're doing is they're slowing down research even for medical applications that don't have anything to do with abortifacients.
There's no way we could slow it down in the first place, but there's no reason to slow it down.
You are. We've had a reduction in contraceptive research in the United States, and every study you read says one of the problems is the anti-abortion movement.
Indeed, the reduction in contraceptive research has been documented. Some of the literature I've been seeing from some right-to-life groups seem to suggest that even Congressman Robert Dornan's amendments do not go far enough in dealing with this issue because it would allow research to continue. And you, however, are saying that if there is a glimmer of hope, and indeed there does seem to be at the very least a glimmer of hope that RU486 has some other uses, that research should continue. But go ahead, make your position clearer.
The Right to Life Committee is not, the Right to Life Committee takes no stand on contraceptives. They're pro-choice on contraceptives. There are Right to Life groups, other than Right to Life Committee, that are anti-contraceptives.
Most, and the
but
National
it certainly doesn't recommend. My group, which hired an airplane to fly with a banner over the Now Convention a few years ago that said birth control yes, abortion no.
Yeah, but
there are better options than abortion.
A lot of the Right to Life people believe that the IUD and the pill are abortions. So, you know,
that's not what we're arguing about here tonight, though. I'm not trying.
But what we're trying to say is that we just want to make your decision or your position a little clearer. And as far as is it effective for other applications, there's more than a glimmer of hope. RU46 has been in test, has shown to be significantly effective for the medical treatment of Cushing syndrome, which is a form of adrenal cancer. So the reality is there's much more. They're 2 years into breast cancer. It's only trials, clinical testing, but it's testing, and it should go on.
Allow me to interrupt and take a telephone call so that our viewing audience can join us in this discussion. It's you. You're on the air. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Kojo. I'm very concerned about this RU486 as a woman of color. I'm concerned that without adequate ethical controls for these drug companies that are going to market this drug, that it's going to be used as a quick fix for poor and third world women without adequate follow-up of their health afterwards. You know, this drug is going to require that the person returns to the clinic for a checkup and is hooked up in the healthcare system. So if they do have a problem, if they need to have a follow-up DNC, this can be done. But you know, here, the way American business runs, I'm afraid they're going to market this as a quick, fast, and cheap way of taking care of the problem of too many poor and too many babies of color.
Okay, let me correct one maybe wrong impression first. No pharmaceutical companies in America are stampeding to market this drug as we speak. They're all running away from it because of the threat of boycott by the pro-life forces in America. But when you speak to the issue of the women of color and the kind of medical neglect that has stalked colored communities for a very long time, I'm sure our panelists would be happy to respond to that.
Actually, I think that this is hopeful. I mean, Dr. Spardell essentially said, well, they are keeping costs constant. But this could be less costly, and it's interesting that this is one of the first new fertility control methods that has been tested primarily among white people as the guinea pigs this time, you might as well say. And it's being marketed in France. I don't mean guinea pigs because obviously it was very carefully done, but you can't say that this testing was done among the third world country and the Northern European women were excluded. In fact, they now have access to it. In my opinion, the hope, the real hope for this drug is that it could help solve or help end the 200,000 or 250,000 third world deaths, women who are dying for botched illegal abortion. That's happening every year. 200,000 women are dying according to the World Health Organization, and I think this could eventually, it's not ready yet, maybe help eliminate that terrible, horrible suffering and death.
Ms. Mathewes-Green, let me back into the uses of RU-486. If indeed it does turn out to be extremely useful for breast and other cancers, Cushing's syndrome, glaucoma, infertility, and endometriosis, contraception, and pregnancy management, and it is made available to women on that basis, how do you stop people from using it for the purposes of abortion?
I'm not sure how we would go about that. I think that we cannot talk about making abortion illegal without talking about making abortion unnecessary and without talking about changing hearts so that we see the pregnant woman as a whole person that doesn't have to be divided into two warring entities, a woman and this alien being within her that's trying to destroy her life.
So that is why you are pro-contraception?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
and
let me take another.
there are other forms of family planning besides artificial contraception.
There will always be failures right now. Right now, 30% of abortions occur because of failures in contraceptives. And in addition to that, there's always abortions for health reasons. That means that the pregnancy is in terrible trouble, and it's necessary for her for quality life and for her life, you know, not to be injured in a way, her health to be reduced. And so you might be able to reduce, there's no question, the number of abortions with more family planning, with free, for example, contraceptives, with more sex education, and with that we would probably agree. But the reality is you'll never eliminate it.
Let me take another telephone call. It's you. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Kojo. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is George Lucas, and I'm director of ALLPAC. That's American Life Lobby Political Action Committee. And you've had three white racists on tonight who support the destruction of the black race in this country. We have evidence from Margaret Sanger that says she wanted to exterminate the black population. Eleanor Smeal and her crowd is guilty of perpetrating destruction of black babies throughout this nation and in the third world.
Okay, allow me
These are racist folks.
Okay, allow me to interrupt you. Allow me to interrupt you with a few facts.
Okay, now
the National Council of Negro...
December 12th, on 10 December 1939... Hello, Kojak?
Allow me to interrupt you for a second.
Yes.
The National Council of Negro Women, the Coalition of 100 Black Women, the Black Health Coalition something, have all come out in support not only of the pro-choice position, but in support of advocating greater research and usage of RU-486.
Well, let me
are they also racist?
As a black man today, we have had many racists, many Uncle Tom blacks who will support the destruction of the race for a few filthy dollars and filthy lucre. Now, what has happened is when Margaret Sanger initiated her program for destruction of the black population, in a quote to Dr. Clarence Gamble, she said, "I do not want it to get out that we want to exterminate the black population of America." Okay. And the black preacher is the man who can whip those persons in line who recognize this fact. Okay. Now, what I'm saying, my brother, is that Margaret Sanger went into the black community. She bought some officials in the NAACP. She bought some black officials. Planned Parenthood is spending thousands of dollars with Fauntleroy.
Got your point. We got to cut. We got to cut. We're running out of time in this segment. I think the important point, though, is that it may be just as racist to denigrate the intelligence of the women of the Coalition of 100 Black Women and the National Council of Negro Women by suggesting that they're lackeys of some white people someplace. And I think that you have to look at both sides of racism if you're going to look at it at all. But we do have to continue with this discussion. I was raising the issue before the caller came in of how you would prevent this from being used, because it is even being argued at this point that RU-486, even if improperly administered, is better than coat hanger abortions, which is what will happen if we have no abortions at all. How would you respond?
I don't think coat hanger abortions is what we're going to have. The technology for section abortions is so advanced that there are women in California who say we have a safe and easy-to-use home abortion kit, and we will see that if abortion is made illegal, that this gets distributed. Women aren't going to go back to coat hangers.
Well, but the problem with that is that women who are rich, or women who are educated, or women who are in the know and are into the network, they'll have safe induced abortions. But many women, poor or who are just not in the right network, they're going to be desperate. And we know what happens. I mean, we don't have to guess. Every country where it's illegal, we have a death rate that is far, you know, it just accelerates. And we also know that it does not reduce the number of abortions in the countries today where abortion is illegal. Actually, the number of abortions or the percentage of abortions, the incidence, is greater than the United States, because in those countries they tend to be punitive and restrictive on birth control too, and let's face it, women will try to control their fertility, whatever the law is.
Let's take another telephone call. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. Hello, caller?
Yes, I just want to say that I'm a black woman, and I think I'm intelligent enough to make my own decision. I think abortion should be legal, and I should have a right to decide whether I want to or not. And I don't agree with your last caller about genocides and things. Black women are not stupid. Many of us are college graduates and things. I mean, I can see how he can say something like that. Don't we have sense enough? Also, I think the anti-abortion movement, they act as if women are so stupid that they're going to use abortion as birth control. So there are going to be some women who do it, no matter what. But the majority of women are intelligent enough to sit down and make an intelligent decision whether to have a child or not.
Okay, thank you very much. On receiving his Lasker Award, Dr. Etienne Beaulieu said that this RU 486 has the potential to save the lives of some 200,000 women, particularly, he says, in the third world, because 50% of maternal births have to do with abortions that went wrong some way or the other. How, again, would you respond to that?
Maternal deaths.
Maternal deaths, what am I saying? Maternal deaths, I'm sorry.
If every woman in America that had a surgical abortion last year had taken RU 486 instead, 1,600 of them would have needed blood transfusions. If we let this loose,
Where did you get that figure?
it's 1/10%. Sounds not like much, but it's 1,600 out of 1.6 million.
Of course, his point was, I guess, largely targeted at the third world.
So if this is targeted
And where
at
there are
third world, where-
200,000 women dying every year from botched illegal abortions.
and will be dying of hemorrhage,
Well, but we know
Well-
one thing. You're making it sound like RU-46 causes more hemorrhaging than an induced abortion, and it does not. I've seen the research data. It just simply is the same incidence. So what you're comparing it as to what? And we know it is safer than what women are doing when they don't have any legal procedures.
well, we think that it's safer.
We
don't
know.
know the
We know
long-term
what
effects.
we know
It
not
would
only
be
they're
impossible to know the
we-
long-term effects of
But
something
we know
that's
what
only
the
been in
death
existence
rate
since
right now.
86.
It's the worst.
There is not as strong a pro-life movement in France as there is here, but there is something of a movement that protested this and caused the manufacturer to suspend it for a while. But 30,000 women have had it, quote-unquote, successfully during the course of the past year. What does that say to you?
There is a point I'd like to make about RU 486 that I haven't heard anybody on either side make yet. And that is that the goal, as you were saying earlier, is the hope that this will become a more private experience, that you can perhaps take the pills at home. You won't have to go into a clinic. You won't have to experience anything like that. What it is it's a miscarriage. It induces a miscarriage. And anyone who's had a miscarriage knows that it's no day at the beach, you know. Miscarriage
No,
is
but
not
wait
any
a
fun.
minute. You're talking about it. This is very,
the
very, very
comparison-
early stages. You're talking at 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Even still,
Well,
if you're
not
going
the
to have
same
an
thing.
abortion, psychologically, I think there is a certain buffer. In a way, it's psychologically easier to go into a clinic, to have it over with in 2 hours, to have someone hold your hand, to be draped, you know, there's a professional at the
2
end of
hours.
the
It
table.
takes a minute and a half to 2 minutes on the
Well,
average.
the whole thing.
And I'm
in
afraid we're
the
out of
door.
time in this segment, but we will be continuing this discussion. It's just that one of our panelists has to leave right now. But we will be coming back to continue this discussion, so you stay with us.